a grueling interview. He's been in that seat since 10 o'clock this morning.
Sorry?
Kathy, yes, indeed. I mean, can you imagine having to sit down in front of the entire nation, in front of all of the people who do what you do, in this case the law, plus a whole lot of politicians, and explain what you want to do, what your vision for the future is? I would find that very grueling. But Judge Madlanga seemed to sort of manage it, I thought, and seemed to manage that actually really quite well. But a very difficult question. What is your vision? Later he was asked this, and this kept coming back in a way, you know, because it kept coming back to the issue of criticism of the judiciary. And Kathy, you'll know as well as I do where this all comes from. It comes, I think, from that opinion piece by Lindiwe Sisulu, the tourism minister. It comes from the way the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo then responded to it so publicly, so forcefully. And in a way, this underpins everything that we've seen so far today. I must just say, though, to my mind at least, a very dignified, very calm, very judicial proceeding. A lot of politicians in the room. Very judicial proceeding. Well, Dan Mafora from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, he's been watching it as well. Dan, good afternoon to you. First off, would you agree with me? It's been very dignified, very calm so far. Dare I say grueling for the person, but almost not as exciting as some people might have thought.
Good evening, Stephen. I think you're absolutely correct. I think in light of recent events at the JSC, this has been one of the milder interviews that we've had. Definitely very difficult questions, but a lot more focused on what actually is happening at the court and the challenges facing the judiciary right now. So a pretty judicial proceeding so far.
Pretty judicial. We don't even have the gowns yet. What this also has, I mean, and there's a lot to it, but the issue of how the court responds to criticism, how the judiciary responds to that. And to me, this is all subtext around, you know, what the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo did so publicly. How do you think Judge Madlanga handled that? It's actually a very difficult line. He was very even-handed. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, lots of quoting of the Constitution. It's what lawyers do in these cases, right?
Yeah. So I thought he handled it quite well. I thought he, you know, made the point that we can't always, as judges, go out in public and try to defend ourselves. There are some things that you should just let be. And he made the point that, you know, other arms of state have a role to play as well. Do they believe in the court, and do they want the people to have confidence in the court? But it was also very clear that there are some lines of criticism that are not appropriate and that should be, you know, discouraged. And he spoke a lot about public education around what the role of the judiciary is, being proactive rather instead of reactive. And so I thought that was a pretty good answer, but obviously didn't touch on the more topical issues that everyone was kind of hoping for. You know, do you think Deputy Chief Justice Zondo should have done what he did? Do you see Minister Sisulu's recent utterances in the media as an attack as opposed to criticism? And I think he was able to skirt around those issues, even though at some point I think there were a lot of interventions from, say, the Minister Lamula and Commissioner Malema about his answers, which they felt were kind of not, you know, not necessarily frank. Yeah.
Not specific enough.
Not specific enough.
I mean, what's interesting about it is that I would love to know how many WhatsApp groups Judge Zondo and Judge Madlanga are on together.
Absolutely.
I mean, surely Judge Madlanga knew what Judge Zondo was going to do. He was properly consulted.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. And we'll never know unless someone asks that question. So,
well, someone will. There'll be a question about access to justice, and Judge Madlanga made this point. Why is it that a witness has to come, you know, from wherever they are to a court that's very far away, costs them a lot of money, etc.? Why can't they testify in the local court to them? And this is about taking justice to the people. So I think that's absolutely something this country needs to explore. It does also make justice more distant because you're not actually in the room.
Right.
Where do you fit in there?
So, do you see the issue, and I think that's that's correct, and especially with the current COVID conditions, we know that we've become a lot more, you know, disconnected. We're so far apart from each other, even though we're connected over all these virtual platforms. But I think it goes back to an issue that he kept raising about resources. You can have all these grand dreams about how you want courts to be accessible for people, but until the money is actually put out there for infrastructure, for recruitment, for all of these things, it remains just a dream. And yeah, I mean, there isn't much that can be said. I think we're going to keep hearing this over and over and over as the week progresses. All of the candidates will be talking about their experiences of online court and how they think we can, spread things out. But we know that we have very serious systemic challenges in the country, and that at the end of the day, this is just going to be a lot of talk unless actual money is put where people's mouths are.
I don't know if you're a betting man, but would you put money on the interviews around Judge Zondo and the interviews around Judge Mlambo later in the week to be a little more exciting, a little more groovy?
I absolutely think so. I think Commissioner Malema already drew the first, the first arrow, as it were, a few days ago or a few weeks ago when he accused the acting Chief Justice of campaigning for this position. And so I think things are going to be a little bit more heated as we go on.
Dan Mafora from the Council for the Advancement of the Constitution. I'm not a betting man, but I'll put a lot of money on Dan Mafora refusing to leave these premises until Friday afternoon when it's all done. That would be my sense. I think he's smiling. Well, I hope that's a smile.